the day the entire family raised their glasses to celebrate Victoria for appearing on the cover of a local business magazine. No one realized that the person quietly paying the rent for the very building where their company operated was sitting at the far end of the dinner table. That person was Hannah Brooks. But at that moment, in her family's eyes, she was still the daughter who had failed. The autumn evening unfolded beneath the warm golden lights of a quiet suburban home. Laughter and conversation echoed around a long dining table filled with homemade dishes. Edward Brooks sat at the center, as he always did, his face glowing with pride as he spoke to the guests about Victoria. He talked about her major court cases, the valuable contracts she had secured, the times she had appeared in the media. Every word seemed to make Victoria shine a little brighter. Meanwhile, Hannah almost disappeared into the background of the conversation. No one asked how her work was going. No one cared about what she had endured over the past year. Years earlier, Hannah had tried to share her dreams. When she decided to leave her office job and start a small warehouse management business, she brought her business plan home, carrying all the excitement and hope of youth. But the reaction she received was nothing like what she expected. Edward placed the folder on the table. He shook his head. He said that manual work could never be called a real career. He said she was choosing a path far beneath what the family expected of her. Victoria, sitting beside him, simply smiled. It was a polite smile, but it was enough to make Hannah's heart turn cold. From that day forward, she stopped explaining herself. Her family saw a woman driving an old pickup truck and wearing simple clothes. They never saw the nights she spent awake in freezing warehouses. They never saw the first contracts she earned through persistence and determination. And they certainly could not see the empire quietly taking shape behind her silence. Because sometimes, the person who is underestimated the most within a family is the very one building something extraordinary. In the years that followed, Hannah almost disappeared from every family conversation, not because she walked away, but because she stopped trying to be seen. While Victoria appeared in local magazines and regularly posted new achievements on social media, Hannah spent most of her time in industrial districts on the edge of the city. She bought abandoned warehouses, places that everyone else considered worthless. One leaking roof at a time was repaired. One empty storage yard at a time was brought back to life. One small contract at a time was turned into a long-lasting business relationship. As the years passed, her company grew quietly, far faster than anyone could have imagined. Yet Hannah continued living exactly the same way. The same old pickup truck, the same modest rental home, the same refusal to talk about money. Ironically, that simplicity convinced her family more than ever that she had never truly succeeded. Then everything changed. 3 years earlier, the company where Edward and Victoria worked found itself on the verge of bankruptcy after a devastating financial crisis. Rumors of layoffs spread through every department. Employees spent months wondering whether they would still have jobs. Then, at the very moment things seemed hopeless, a mysterious investment group appeared. They purchased the entire building. They injected capital into the struggling company. They saved hundreds of jobs. Edward praised those investors countless times, calling them heroes who had rescued the business. What he never knew was that the person behind the deal was Hannah. And that was not the only secret she carried. For years, the scholarship fund that helped underprivileged students throughout the region had been financed through the profits of her company. Yet the name printed on every certificate belonged to the retired teacher who had believed in her when she first started out. Hannah never needed recognition. She never needed applause. She never needed anyone to know. At least not until that night. The night of her parents' wedding anniversary celebration. The night when secrets hidden for years were finally about to step out of the shadows. The anniversary celebration unfolded beneath soft music and endless waves of laughter. Edward rose from his chair and lifted his glass. He thanked his friends. He thanked his colleagues. And once again, he spoke about Victoria as the greatest source of pride in the family. Hannah sat quietly at the far end of the table, just as she had done for so many years. Then Edward suddenly turned toward her. He smiled. The kind of smile that prompted a few others in the room to chuckle along. "So, how's work these days?" he asked. "Making enough to cover your rent yet?" The room fell silent for a few seconds. No one spoke. No one stopped him. At that exact moment, the large screen inside the banquet hall suddenly lit up. A video call appeared. Assuming it was part of the scheduled presentation, the event staff left the connection running. A man in a business suit appeared on the screen. He looked directly at Hannah. "Chairwoman Brooks, the board is waiting for your final decision regarding the acquisition of the new logistics center. We need your approval." No one moved. No one seemed to breathe. The entire room froze. Victoria was the first to go pale. Edward looked from the screen to Hannah. Then back to the screen again. He waited for someone to explain. But no one did. Because the truth had suddenly become impossible to ignore. The woman he had underestimated for years was the owner of the investment group that had saved his company from bankruptcy. She was the owner of the building where he worked every day. She was the person behind the scholarship fund known throughout the city. Hannah slowly rose from her chair. She ended the call. She picked up her coat and slipped it over her shoulders. There was something remarkable about her expression. No anger. No satisfaction. No resentment. She simply looked at her father one last time, then offered a small smile. "I hope everyone has a wonderful evening." With that, she turned and walked out of the room. Behind her remained a heavy silence, the silence of people who had finally realized they had misjudged someone for years. And for the first time in her life, Hannah did not leave a family gathering feeling left behind. She left with the quiet peace of someone who no longer needed anyone else's approval to know her own worth.